Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Earth Defense Command's Lunar Base Alpha, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the status of humanity's outer colonies. Another red dot appeared. New Montana, population 2.3 million, now under attack. Her hands clenched behind her back, but her face remained impassive as she watched the Arvani-collected ships tear through the colony's minimal defenses. "Ma'am, New Montana is broadcasting the standard warning message," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his communication station. "The Arvani response is, 'Laughter, Commander.' They're broadcasting it on all frequencies." Sarah nodded, forcing herself to maintain her composure. The Arvani had emerged from deep space 3 weeks ago, their massive fleet appearing at the edges of human-controlled space. They'd made no attempts at communication before launching their first attack on Haven Colony. Their message had been simple: surrender or die. Earth's response had been equally simple: silence. "Status of Operation Silent Shield?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the weight of another colony falling. "Phase 1 is at 97% completion," Captain Maya Patel reported from her engineering station. "The quantum link network is stable across all nodes. We're ahead of schedule, despite the attacks." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Of course they were ahead of schedule. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 30 years, ever since the first hints of the Arvani's existence had been detected by deep space probes. The aliens thought Earth's silence and apparent lack of military response indicated weakness or fear. They couldn't have been more wrong. "New message incoming from the Arvani fleet," Rodriguez announced. They're mocking us, Commander." Broadcasting footage of their victory at New Montana. The main screen filled with images of Arvani warships, massive crystalline structures that resembled abstract art more than military vessels, firing upon the colony's infrastructure. Their weapons were impressive, converting matter to energy in devastating bursts that could tear through conventional shields like paper. "Let them gloat," Sarah said quietly. "Transfer the attack data to analysis. I want to know every detail about their weapon signatures, shield frequencies, and fleet movements." The observation deck fell silent as the officers worked, each focused on their tasks with an intensity that would have surprised their attackers. The Arvani believed they were facing a primitive species that had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. They saw humanity's dispersed colonies, linked by seemingly fragile supply lines, as easy targets. They didn't understand that every human colony, every satellite, every piece of infrastructure they destroyed was providing vital data about their capabilities. Each attack was being analyzed by quantum computers hidden in the heart of Luna, their findings transmitted through subspace channels that the Arvani sensors couldn't detect. "Commander," Maya called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "We've confirmed their shield modulation patterns. They're exactly as the simulations predicted. The quantum resonance technology will work." Sarah walked to Maya's station, studying the complex mathematical models on her screen. "Show me the coverage map." A new hologram appeared, showing human-controlled space as a vast web of interconnected points. Red dots marked fallen colonies, but surrounding each point was a subtle shimmer, quantum particles, linked across vast distances, waiting to be activated. "Look at this, Commander," Maya said, highlighting a section of the map. "Every time they destroy one of our orbital platforms or defense satellites, the quantum particles are released into the surrounding space. They're actually helping us create the field we need." Sarah nodded. The plan had seemed almost impossible when it was first proposed 3 decades ago. Building a defense system that could counter any alien technology they might encounter had required a fundamental shift in humanity's approach to space warfare. Instead of traditional military might, they had opted for something far more subtle and far more powerful. "Status of the civilian evacuation corridors?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez consulted his display. "All operational, Commander. The Arvani haven't detected any of the FTL routes we've hidden within the quantum field. Estimated 60% of New Montana's population, made it to the shelters before the attack. They're being moved to secure locations now. Sarah felt a flutter of relief. The loss of life was still tragic, but far less than the Arvani believed. While they celebrated their victory over seemingly defenseless colonies, the majority of the human population was being quietly relocated through hidden corridors in space-time, corridors that would serve a very different purpose once Operation Silent Shield was fully activated. Message from Earth Defense Council, Rodriguez announced. They're requesting an update on Phase 1 completion time. Sarah straightened, squaring her shoulders. Tell them we'll be ready within 6 hours. And get me a direct line to Admiral Hassan. It's time to begin Phase 2. As she waited for the connection, Sarah watched another colony's dot turn red on the display. The Arvani were moving faster now, growing bold with their unopposed victories. Soon, they would turn their attention to Earth itself, expecting to find a cowering civilization ready to submit to their power. They would learn, as so many others throughout history had learned, that patience should never be mistaken for weakness, and silence should never be interpreted as fear. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, building a defense that would change the nature of warfare itself. The Arvani thought they were writing a story of conquest. They didn't realize they were actually playing their part in humanity's carefully orchestrated plan. A plan that would demonstrate why underestimating human ingenuity was always a fatal mistake. Admiral Hassan is ready for you, Commander, Rodriguez said. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes still on the growing number of red dots in human space. Put him through. It's time to show our visitors why silence can be the deadliest response of all. Fleet Admiral Krasful of the Arvani Collective stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Crystal Spear, watching tactical displays of their latest victory. His crystalline skin refracted the light from nearby monitors, casting prismatic patterns across the organic curves of the bridge. Another human colony had fallen, barely putting up more resistance than the last. Supreme Admiral, his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex, approached with a data crystal. The analysis of human infrastructure you requested. Krastul absorbed the crystal into his palm, the data flowing directly into his consciousness. His faceted eyes narrowed as he processed the information. These patterns, they make no sense. Sir, look at their orbital infrastructure, Krasful commanded, projecting the data into a holographic display. Every colony we've taken has the same basic layout. Defensive satellites that barely function, civilian stations arranged in seemingly random patterns, and these. He highlighted a series of unremarkable structures, communication relays that appear to serve no purpose. Perhaps their technology is simply primitive, Vex suggested. Their ships can barely achieve FTL speeds. No, Krasful murmured. There's something else. These structures, they're too consistent, too perfect in their imperfection. He zoomed in on one of the destroyed colonies, and look at their evacuation patterns. We're finding far fewer bodies than their population numbers suggest. Back on Luna, Commander Sarah Chen received the latest intelligence report with grim satisfaction. They're starting to notice, she told Admiral Hassan's hologram, just as we predicted. The Admiral's weathered face showed the first hint of a smile. The Arvani pride themselves on their tactical analysis. How long before Phase 2 is ready? Sarah checked the quantum field readings. The network is stable. Each attack has released more particles into the field, and our hidden processors are maintaining the links. We're ready to begin on your order. And the civilian evacuations. Proceeding according to plan. The quantum corridors are holding stable, completely invisible to Arvani sensors. We've already moved 70% of the colonial population to secure locations within the Sol system's shadow zones. Hassan nodded. Very well. You have authorization to proceed with Phase 2. And Sarah, he paused, his expression serious. The Council wants to know if you're certain about the psychological impact. The Arvani need to believe they're winning, right until the moment they lose. The simulations are clear, Admiral. The Arvani operate on a hive mind principle. Their overconfidence will be their undoing. The more certain they are of victory, the more devastating their eventual defeat will be. As if to emphasize her point, another alert flashed across her screen. The Arvani had just launched an attack on Europa Colony, one of the largest human settlements outside Earth. Sarah watched as the familiar pattern repeated: minimal resistance, strategic infrastructure destruction, and carefully orchestrated chaos that masked the precise operation happening beneath the surface. In the debris field that was once Europa Colony's main station, quantum particles merged with the background radiation of space. Invisible to conventional sensors, they formed new links in an ever-growing web that stretched across human space. Each destroyed satellite, each shattered station, released more particles into this hidden network. New transmission from the Arvani fleet. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "There?" He hesitated. "They're asking why we don't fight back. They're calling us cowards." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Send the standard response." Silence, with just enough static to make them think we're trying and failing to communicate. On the crystal sphere, Krasful reviewed the latest battle footage with growing unease. "Show me the orbital debris pattern again," he commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing the scattered remains of Europa Colony's infrastructure. Something about the distribution bothered him. It was too uniform, too structured for random destruction. And there was that energy signature again, barely detectable but consistently present at every site they'd attacked. "Sir," Vex interrupted his thoughts. "The War Council is demanding an update. They want to know why we haven't moved against Earth yet." Krastol's crystalline fingers traced patterns in the air as he thought. "These humans, they're hiding something. Their colonies fall too easily, their defense too poorly coordinated to be natural. It's as if." "As if what, Supreme Admiral?" "As if they want us to destroy their infrastructure." He zoomed in on one of the destroyed communication relays. "Every piece we destroy releases trace amounts of quantum energy. Energy that matches frequencies we've detected across human space, growing stronger with each attack." "Surely you don't think—" Vex began, but Krasful cut him off. "Order the fleet to prepare for the final assault. If the humans are planning something, we'll draw it out by threatening their homeworld. No species would sacrifice their origin point, no matter what game they're playing." In the quantum-shielded chambers beneath Luna's surface, Sarah Chen received the Arvani fleet movements with satisfaction. "They're taking the bait," she told her staff. "All ships are moving toward Earth. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. Phase 2 completion at 98%, Maya reported. "The quantum field is stable and ready for activation. Should we begin evacuating Earth's population?" Sarah shook her head. "No need. Earth was ready for this long before the Arvani arrived. Every major city has been quantum-shielded for the past decade. Our visitors are about to learn why humanity chose to invest in defense rather than offense." She walked to the main display, watching the approaching Arvani fleet. Their crystalline ships glittered like stars, beautiful and deadly, completely unaware that they were flying into humanity's most elaborate trap. Each piece of destroyed infrastructure, each seemingly defenseless colony, had been another strand in a web 30 years in the making. "Send word to all quantum nodes," Sarah commanded. "Prepare for Phase 3 activation. It's time to show the Arvani why silence isn't always submission. Sometimes it's simply the calm before the storm." The crystal spear's sensors registered Earth for the first time as the Arvani battle fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system. Krasful studied the blue-green world with his faceted eyes, noting the seemingly sparse orbital infrastructure and minimal defensive installations. "Final analysis of Earth's defensive capabilities," Vex reported, his crystalline form vibrating with anticipation. "Their orbital platforms appear to be civilian stations only. We detect approximately 300 satellites, mostly communication and weather monitoring. No significant military presence detected." Krasful's unease had grown stronger during their approach. "And the quantum readings?" "Present, but negligible, Supreme Admiral." Similar to what we detected in the colonies. Vex paused. The War Council is demanding immediate action. They believe our hesitation shows weakness. Across the vast distance of space, Sarah Chen watched the Arvani fleet's arrival from Luna Base Alpha. The massive holographic display showed thousands of crystalline ships arranged in attack formation. Their weapons powered up, creating beautiful geometric patterns of energy that would have been breathtaking if they weren't meant for destruction. All quantum nodes are synchronized. Maya reported from her station. The network is ready. Sarah nodded, her expression serene. Begin broadcast of the surrender message. On the crystal sphere, Krasthful received the transmission with surprise. The message was simple, transmitted in perfect Arvani. The people of Earth acknowledge the Arvani collective's superior force and submit to your authority. We ask only for mercy for our people. Finally, Vex exhaled. They've accepted their inevitable defeat. But Krasthful wasn't listening. His attention was fixed on the carrier wave of the transmission. Something about its frequency patterns seemed familiar. He began to cross-reference it with the quantum signatures they detected throughout human space. "Sir," his sensor officer called out urgently, "we're detecting power fluctuations in our secondary systems." Before Krasthful could respond, the tactical officer added his own report. "Weapon systems are experiencing calibration errors. Shield harmonics are destabilizing." "Impossible," Vex declared. "Their technology is primitive. They can't affect our systems." In the quantum-shielded command center beneath Luna's surface, Sarah watched as the first phase of humanity's true defense grid activated. The surrender message contained encoded quantum frequencies that interfaced with the particles they carefully spread throughout space during the Arvani's campaign of destruction. "Quantum resonance field is stable," Maya reported with fierce pride. "The carrier wave is successfully interfacing with all nodes. Their ship's crystalline structure is responding exactly as predicted." 30 years ago, when the first deep space probes had detected traces of the Arvani, humanity had made a crucial discovery. The aliens' crystalline technology, while incredibly advanced, operated on predictable quantum frequencies. Earth scientists had realized that traditional military defense would be useless against such powerful weapons. Instead, they had developed something far more subtle. "Their fleet is fully encompassed by the quantum field," Rodriguez announced. "All ships are experiencing systems degradation. They haven't attempted to leave the affected area." On the crystal sphere, chaos erupted as more systems began to fail. Krasthful watched in horror as the tactical display revealed the truth. The quantum signatures he detected weren't random artifacts of destruction. They were parts of an enormous web, and his fleet had just flown into its center. "The satellites," he whispered, finally understanding. "The orbital platforms, the communication relays. They were never meant for defense or communication. They were quantum resonators, designed to be destroyed." "Supreme Admiral," Vex's voice shook, "we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The quantum particles, they're linking together, creating some kind of containment field." Sarah Chen stood at her command station, watching as humanity's greatest achievement activated around the Arvani fleet. Every destroyed piece of infrastructure had released precisely engineered quantum particles into space. Now, triggered by the surrender message's carrier wave, those particles were forming into an enormous quantum web. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered quietly. Throughout the Sol system, hidden installations powered up. The quantum web began to pulse with energy, each node resonating at frequencies that interfered with the Arvani ship's crystalline structure. Their weapons, their shields, their very hulls began to vibrate in sympathy with the quantum field. "This is impossible," Vex declared, his crystalline form trembling. "They sacrificed their colonies, their infrastructure. Everything we destroyed was meant to be destroyed." Krasthful finished. "Every attack released more particles into space. Every victory brought us closer to their trap." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the fleet. Attempt emergency FTL jump." But it was too late. The quantum web had solidified around them, creating a prison of energy that their ships couldn't penetrate. Their crystalline technology, so advanced and powerful, had become their greatest weakness. Sarah touched a control on her console, opening a channel to the trapped fleet. "Admiral Krasful," she said calmly, speaking in Arvani, "you wondered why we didn't fight back. Now you understand. We were fighting from the very first moment. Not with weapons or ships, but with patience, planning, and the understanding that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to turn an enemy's power against itself." The quantum web pulsed with energy, and throughout the Arvani fleet, ships began to power down, their crystalline systems unable to function within the resonating field. Humanity's ultimate defense had proven itself not through overwhelming force, but through subtle manipulation of the very principles that made their enemies so formidable. The silence in space was broken only by the subtle vibration of quantum particles, singing their victory song across the stars. The Sol system blazed with quantum energy as Earth's true defense grid fully activated. From his command deck on the crystal sphere, Krasful watched in stunned silence as seemingly innocuous civilian satellites transformed, their outer shells dissolving to reveal sophisticated quantum resonators beneath. "Supreme Admiral," Vex's voice cracked with distress, his crystalline form reflecting the chaos around them. "We've lost contact with 30% of the fleet. Their systems are completely shut down." The tactical display told a story that no Arvani strategic simulation had ever predicted. The quantum web wasn't just containing their fleet. It was actively interfacing with their ship's crystalline architecture, using their own technology against them. In the Lunar Command Center, Commander Sarah Chen monitored the operation with practiced precision. "Status of the quantum containment field?" she asked. "Field strength at maximum," Maya reported. "The Arvani fleet is fully encompassed. Their attempts at FTL jumps have been negated by the resonance patterns. Energy absorption rate is exceeding expectations." Sarah nodded, watching as more Arvani ships went dark. Earth's defense system wasn't designed to destroy. It was engineered to neutralize and contain. Each quantum node in the web could absorb and redirect energy, turning the aliens' own power against them in a perfectly synchronized dance of particles. "Commander," Rodriguez called out, "we're detecting a power spike from the crystal sphere. They're attempting to overload their core." Sarah's expression remained calm. "Activate the secondary resonance pattern. Show them what happens when they try to force their way out." The quantum web shifted, its energy patterns changing frequency. The crystal sphere's power spike was caught in the field, channeled through the network of nodes, and redirected harmlessly into space. The massive energy discharge created a spectacular aurora effect in Earth's upper atmosphere, a beautiful reminder of humanity's mastery over quantum mechanics. On the crystal sphere, Krasful watched his final gambit fail. "How?" he demanded. "How did they build this without us detecting it?" "Sir," his science officer responded, "analysis suggests the quantum network wasn't built, it was grown. Each destroyed colony, each shattered satellite, released engineered particles that naturally aligned into this configuration. The humans didn't just plan for our attack. They used our own actions to construct their defense." Understanding dawned in Krasful's faceted eyes. The warning messages from the colonies, they weren't threats of vengeance. They were activating the particles we released with each attack. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Hassan's hologram appeared beside Sarah. "The Council is impressed, Commander. The quantum containment field is performing beyond our highest projections." 30 years of preparation, Admiral," Sarah replied. "Every colony we built, every satellite we launched, was designed for this moment. The Arvani thought they were destroying our infrastructure, but they were actually completing our work for us." She gestured to a display showing the quantum web structure. "Look at the pattern. Sir, it's perfect. We couldn't have achieved this level of coverage if we tried to build it ourselves. We needed the Arvani's weapon signatures, their attack patterns, to create the exact resonance frequencies required. And the evacuated colonists. Sarah smiled. Safe in the quantum shelters we built throughout the Sol system. Once the Arvani fleet is fully neutralized, we can begin rebuilding. The quantum particles will remain in space, creating a permanent defense network that can be activated at any time. On the crystal sphere, Krasthul made his final decision. "Open a channel to the human command center," he ordered. Sarah accepted the transmission, and Krasthul's crystalline face appeared on her screen. "Commander Chen," he said, his translator struggling with the complex emotions in his voice. "The Arvani Collective acknowledges defeat." "Not defeat, Admiral Krasthul," Sarah corrected gently. "Understanding. Your technology is incredible, your weapons formidable, but you failed to grasp a fundamental truth about humanity. We learn from history. Every civilization that survived attempted invasion did so not by matching force with force, but by turning their enemy's strength into weakness." She gestured, and the quantum web pulsed with a new pattern. Throughout the Arvani fleet, emergency power systems activated, providing basic life support, but nothing more. Your ships will remain contained until we can reach a diplomatic solution. Your crew will be safe and comfortable, but unable to continue hostilities. And if we refuse to negotiate, then you'll remain exactly where you are, watching as humanity rebuilds what was destroyed, using the very quantum network you helped us create. We're patient, Admiral. We waited 30 years to spring this trap. We can wait longer for you to realize that cooperation is preferable to conflict. The quantum web shimmered in space, its complex pattern a testament to human ingenuity and foresight. Each node pulsed with absorbed energy, ready to counter any further aggression. Earth's ultimate defense had proven itself not through destruction, but through the elegant application of physics and patience. In the debris fields around fallen colonies, quantum particles continued their dance, maintaining the network that would protect human space for generations to come. The Arvani's campaign of destruction had given humanity something far more valuable than victory. It had given them security. 3 months after the Arvani fleet's containment, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation dome of the newly rebuilt Europa colony. Below her, construction drones wove quantum-enhanced materials into elegant structures that would house returning colonists. The quantum web still shimmered faintly in space, now a permanent shield protecting human territory. "The last civilian transport is docking, Commander," Maya reported, joining her at the window. "Operation Homecoming will be complete ahead of schedule." Sarah nodded, watching as the massive ship lined up with Europa's main port. The evacuation protocols had worked perfectly. Millions of lives had been saved by moving colonists through hidden quantum corridors, while letting the Arvani believe they were winning. Now those same people were returning to rebuild, their colonies stronger than ever. "And our guests?" Sarah asked. "The Arvani diplomatic delegation is waiting in the conference chamber. Admiral Krasthul seems different since the containment." The crystalline alien stood as Sarah entered the conference room, his faceted eyes reflecting the quantum patterns that now decorated Europa's architecture. 3 months in the containment field had changed him. Physically, he was the same, but there was a new respect in his posture. "Commander Chen," he greeted her in carefully practiced English. "Your people's efficiency in reconstruction is remarkable. Rebuilding is always easier when you plan for it in advance." Sarah replied, taking her seat. "The quantum particles that formed our defense network are now integrated into our new infrastructure. Every colony we rebuild will be inherently protected." Krasthul's crystalline fingers traced patterns on the table's surface. "The collective has spent decades analyzing your species. We thought we understood you. Scattered colonies, minimal military presence, primitive FTL technology. We were blind to the truth. That was the intention," Sarah acknowledged. "Humanity learned long ago that obvious strength often invites challenge. True power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to defend effectively." She gestured, and a holographic display activated, showing the quantum web's coverage of human space. Every colony we built, every satellite we positioned, was part of a larger design. We knew someone would eventually test us, whether the Arvani or another spacefaring race. So we prepared a defense that couldn't be defeated because it couldn't be recognized until it was too late. By letting us believe we were winning, Krasful mused, you ensured we would complete your defense network ourselves. Each attack released more quantum particles. Each victory strengthened your position. He paused. The collective has never encountered such strategy. Because you've never encountered humanity before, Sarah smiled. We're not united by military might or technological superiority. We're united by our ability to learn, to adapt, and to plan for long-term survival. On the table between them, a document shimmered into existence, the proposed peace treaty between Earth and the Arvani Collective. Its terms were surprisingly generous, focusing on cultural exchange and technological cooperation rather than punishment or reparations. Your council is willing to forgive our aggression so easily? Krasful asked, surprise evident in his tone. Forgiveness is practical, Sarah replied. Your civilization has much to teach us, and we have much to share in return. The quantum web demonstrated that your crystalline technology and our particle manipulation techniques can work together in ways neither of us fully understood. She touched a control, and the view outside the conference room windows shifted to show the contained Arvani fleet. The ships hung in space, their crystalline structures now harmonizing with the quantum field rather than fighting against it. We're offering your people a choice, Sarah continued. Remain enemies, trapped in a containment field that grows stronger every day, or become allies and help us explore the true potential of our combined technologies. Krasful was silent for a long moment, his alien features unreadable. Finally, he spoke. The collective has existed for 10,000 years. In all that time, we have never been defeated. Yet here we are, completely neutralized without a single shot fired in anger. Perhaps, he touched the treaty document, perhaps it is time for the collective to learn new ways. As they formalized the agreement, Sarah reflected on the long path that had led to this moment. 30 years of preparation, of building colonies that seemed defenseless, while laying the groundwork for an impenetrable shield. Years of launching satellites that appeared primitive, but contained the seeds of humanity's most sophisticated technology. Outside, the quantum web continued its silent vigil, a testament to human ingenuity and patience. Each node in the network represented a choice, to defend rather than attack, to plan rather than react, to turn an enemy's strength into the foundation of peace. The stars shone through the quantum field, their light slightly distorted by the particles that now protected human space. In that shimmer was humanity's message to the galaxy. True strength lies not in the weapons you wield, but in the wisdom to know when not to use them. As the first Arvani ships were released from containment, their crews now committed to peace, Sarah Chen smiled. Sometimes, she knew, the most powerful response was silence. Not the silence of weakness, but the silence of those patient enough to let their actions speak louder than any words.